Welcome to Basics by Daylight. My name is Seven. I'm a Dead by Daylight content creator with far beyond 16,000 hours in the game. In the past 9 years, this game has become my favorite and I tried learning as much as I can. And in this series, I want to share some of my knowledge with you. The videos in this series will always be dedicated to one specific killer, explaining their power, including strengths and weaknesses, with tips and tricks on what you have to learn so you can start mastering the killer itself. One of the killers I probably have one of the most experience with in the entire world is Huntress, and there is no killer better to start off this basic guide series than my own main. Disclaimer, this is a guide series that will not consist of super specific in-depth topics, and I'm rather trying to keep everything as simple and understandable as possible. A lot of you probably have looked around the game already and found a bio page. On this page you can find valuable information about movement speed, height, and even the terror radius size. Huntress, as a 4.4 meters per second killer, is what we refer to as a 110 killer, as she moves with 110% of the movement speed a survivor moves with. In simple terms, as Huntress you are very slow, and winding up or holding a hatchet makes you even slower. This is to the core not horrible, because as Huntress you have a range power to make up for your slow walking speed. But this also means every mistake you make will get punished very harshly in form of distance a survivor will gain on you. Outside of that, you might have noticed that her terror radius is way smaller than any other killers, and that is not a coincidence. As a far more ranged killer, they probably wanted to give survivors a fairer chance to react to her projectiles even on a distance. So instead of a giant terror radius blasting survivors' ears, Huntress has a lullaby that she sings which survivors can hear up to a 45-meter radius. This is an assumption of mine and not confirmed, but I assume the terror radius is so small, the lullaby is so big, because it would be more difficult for survivors to hear the Huntress wind up her hatchet in the distance, a loud heartbeat in your ear, rather than a softly sung lullaby. Now that we established her base stats, let's head right into her power, from how it works all up to professional advice. From loading into your first game, taking a look down into the HUD, you will notice the number on your power bar. You always start with 7 hatchets, not more, not less. And if you happen to be out, you can reload them at any locker in the game. You also don't need to be at 0 to reload, you can reload at any point in time. When you happen to hit 0, nearby lockers will show you hatchet auras to remind you that you are out of ammo. Outside of that, her power is very simple to use but has many dimensions to it. You wind up with your power button. When it's ready to travel, you will hear the Huntress raise her voice, and by letting go of your power button, you actually throw the hatchet. If you wind up but you happen to decide against throwing your hatchet, you can press your basic attack input to put your hatchet down again. Sounds very simple, but not every hatchet is the same. The main reason for that is charge time. If you have ever thrown a hatchet as soon as you raised it, you probably noticed that the hatchet actually feels very clunky and slow. A hatchet actually needs around 3 seconds to reach its maximum travel speed. So quickly wound up hatchets travel slower, but in a very curvy arc. As where maximum charged hatchets will travel very fast and very straightforward. Everything in between will behave accordingly to more charge equals less arc and more speed. So one of the first things you want to work on is getting a feeling for throwing hatchets. And with that, I mean charged ones, uncharged ones, and everything in between. That will take a lot of practice and a lot of throwing, but you definitely want to know where your hatchet will kind of land when you let go of it, and especially how it will travel doing so. Because faster doesn't always mean better. You don't always want to throw fully charged hatchets, and in some situations you straight up can't. Let me show you an example of when a lesser charged hatchet is way more beneficial than a charged one. On a lot of maps, we have plenty of different obstacles. And if you see stuff like high rocks, fences, high boxes, and barrels, a lot of Huntresses struggle with the thoughts, I won't be able to do anything about this. And if you always happen to throw maximum or fully charged hatchets, that will actually be the case. What I want to teach you here is to make use of the arc that an uncharged hatchet creates. An arc creates momentum upwards, reaches a high point, and drops off after. What you want to do is line up the high point to an obstacle like a fence, for example, and hit the target behind it with help of the drop-off. A good example for this is the fence on the Badham preschool. If you're on the street side and try to hit a survivor inside the building, fully charged hatchets will straight up fly outside of the map into the fence, hit the roof. With the right amount of distance and an uncharged shot, the hatchet will drop off behind the fence and hit the target inside. This kind of creativity solely from using the charge gives you infinite possibilities, not only for trick shots, but also to outplay even the most difficult loops. This is a simple principle that a lot of Huntress players use for any structure and any hitbox that is barely high enough to cover a survivor hitbox. To practice this, you also don't need to wait for niche in-game scenarios. You can just open a custom game, add a few bots that you just straight up ignore, choose a Macmillan map for example that can spawn rocks, and throw uncharged shots right over them, barely enough that you don't hit them. Then you just reload, go back, repeat. If you start feeling confident, try out as many different structures as you like. Those shots are very helpful and catch a lot of people off guard, even the best players, especially when they can't even see you. Other than that, fully charged shots will be your best friend when it comes to open field, jungle gyms, and medium range chases, as they are very quick and hard to dodge for survivors. Sadly, there are two things that make this difficult: movement speed and wind-up speed. As 110 killer with a wind-up time of 3 seconds, it's difficult to fire a fully charged shot around the corner on a moving survivor, and sadly, there is no magic tip or trick to help you develop the perfect wind-up timing for every structure in the game. It will be a lot of trial and error. A lot of Huntress gameplay is about patience, and not only when holding a hatchet, also with yourself as you are learning. Speaking about patience, a lot of issues that I see a lot of Huntress players have at the start is sending their hatchets right away when seeing a moving target. This can be a good play at times, as in some situations when a server is about to turn a corner, you have to react quick, but most of the time this will probably end up in being a miss. One good thing to remember is survivors are just under as much pressure as you are when holding a hatchet. Oftentimes servers tend to dodge in specific ways and patterns over and over again without realizing it. Taking a moment to look at their movement and reacting accordingly can save you a lot of time and hatchets. Sometimes all that patience can still end up in a miss, and that is fine. Make sure to not be too hard on yourself, as even the best Huntress players out there are far off from 100% hit accuracy. When it comes to landing shots, there are different timings for different distances and charge speeds. At the start, you learned about the difference between slow, uncharged arc shots and super fast charged shots. Distance and speed change the position you have to aim for all the time. If you are aiming for a stationary server far in the distance in open field, you probably want to line up your shots straight onto the target. If you're throwing over obstacles on a stationary target, you will have to aim a little higher, out that much charge. If you're throwing on a running server into the distance with a fully charged shot, you'll have to aim into their pathway instead of onto their target. And accordingly, for an uncharged shot, you have to aim into the pathway, but a little further away and a little bit higher than usual. So the more distance they have on you, the further ahead of them you have to predict. This is a small guideline, but since every server is not moving the same and not every player is doing the same things over and over again, you might have to get creative at some point. But that is also half of the fun when it comes to Huntress, throwing hatchets and developing a feeling for what you can and cannot do. Regardless how much I explain about this killer and any tip I can give you, ultimately this killer is very practice heavy, and regardless how difficult the start might be, it's worth it to stick with it. I've had plenty of years filled with fun moments playing her, and let me tell you, my beginnings were everything but great. Last but not least, let's talk about hitboxes. The hitbox of an actual hatchet isn't really that large. It is a tiny spheric hitbox, like a little ball, that you can actually fit through the wildest gaps and connect at tight corners, thanks to how servers' hitboxes work as well. A running server shows as leaning forwards, but the actual hitbox always stays centered, like a little cube. So regardless if a survivor is standing at or running around the corner, as long as we can hit the corner with our little ball-shaped hatchet, the shot will connect. It can look like this here and works around any wall or obstacle with a flat hitbox surface. Since we now established that we are throwing little balls onto big cubes, think a step ahead. There are many gaps in different shapes on any map for that matter. Holes in walls, gaps in loops, gaps in walls, you name it. If you're aiming correctly with the matching charge, any of that can become a danger zone. With Huntress, nearly nothing is impossible in this game. Picking up this killer will promise thousands of hours to sink into exploring maps, hitboxes, and your own creativity. When it comes to shots and lining up long shots, make sure to hold your aim steady. Instead of moving with the survivor and shaking your aim, fixate a point, a gap or a corner the survivor will pass. When they are dodging in the open, fixate a point close to them and wait for them to basically dodge back into your aim. This way you can focus more on aiming, have a clearer head, and an easier time to react. When it comes to hatchets and reloading, you obviously don't want to reload after every single hatchet. Huntress as a snowball killer is very good at injuring multiple people in the same area, punishing things like body blocking or cocky survivor plays like healing or unhooking right in your face. So as a good rule of thumb, you can look at the individual health states survivors still have on the map and reload whenever your hatchets don't match them too well and you have a calm minute, like after finishing a chase or after kicking a generator. For example, if one server is on the hook and all 3 are injured and you still have 4 hatchets, it's better to not reload and get onto them as fast as you can before they heal. If in that same scenario you only have 2 hatchets left, it would probably be be way better for you to reload. Of course, there will be some exceptions for this rule, like if you immediately see a survivor trying to go in for something, but outside of that, this is like a good rule to stick to. As you are a slow killer, thinking about your time management like that can be very important. For generators, every second over a long match can add up. After finishing a chase, making sure that you can hook a survivor close to a locker will always be one of the most beneficial things for you. As Huntress, your hook and basement defense is incredible, so making sure you get headshots in that area in that moment will always be the most important for you. On top of that, if you ever feel mean, since we just mentioned the basement, the best way to play basement will always be to wait at the top of the stairs, not halfway in, not in the doorway, at the top of the stairs. Hit a shot on a bottom server as they turn the corner and follow up with a basic attack. This is why dying around basement against the Huntress is really bad. Regardless if healthy survivor or tunneling through endurance, someone will usually die in this scenario. When it comes to perks add-ons, there are a few things that I would definitely recommend to run and some that I would definitely recommend to avoid at all costs. Since you're trying to learn your timings, your headshot charge time, your aim, and survivor's movement, as well as hitboxes, I would recommend to stay away from any aura perks or add-ons that will reveal survivor's auras in a chase, or anything that will give you a giant notification bubble. So anything like Glowing Concoction, I'm All Ears, even Scourge Hook Floods of Rage, Spies from the Shadows, and maybe even Tinkerer. These things will either get you in a quick habit of relying on them without learning proper timings, and big notifications can even mess everything up for you if they appear mid-chase in front of you. Other than that, add-ons that impact the wind-up timing, the flight speed, the speed while holding a headshot, and anything of sort can be poisoned for your muscle memory while just picking up the killer and learning. So definitely make sure to wait out till you're comfortable enough with your base power before picking up those kind of things. Outside of that, aura itself isn't really bad. It can even be very beneficial to practice long range shots and practice creative use of hitboxes, arc shots. So any perks that provide non-chase related aura, like barbecue and chili, bitter murmur, lethal pursuer, or even gearhead can be super helpful for you. When it comes to add-ons like Oak Haft and Bandage Haft will give you a quicker cooldown in between headshot throws, will allow you to throw more headshots in a row, which is not the worst. I would recommend to try those if you really want to run any add-ons, or even Deerskin Gloves, which is an add-on that will make your reload very quick, because that can help you a little bit more with time management and doesn't mess up any muscle memory. Last but not least, when it comes to perks that block generators for you will be your best friend. That is stuff like Deadlock or Corrupt Intervention, because they will provide you with time. And time in matches when you're learning will always be your most valuable resource. And while we are speaking about time, it is time to find an end to this video, and hopefully a start to your personal Huntress journey. One thing to always keep in mind is that guides, regardless if in written form or in video form or even as audiobook, whatever, will never fully replace practice, and practice. So don't go into your games after like seeing this basic guides and even understanding everything that you will do insane right off the start. Keep your goals small, learn bit by bit, and after a while I promise you, you will see results and it will feel amazing. This killer overall has like so much to offer. There's a long learning curve, there is so much to do, there's an insane amount of creative expression, mechanical skill expression, and so much fun. Anyways, enough yapping. I hope I'll see you next time. Enjoy your Huntress experience.